welcome. Hi, everyone. Kenneth Lang here with Terry Seamon from beautiful Ugg, New Jersey. We have had much rain and much cloudiness for a while, so hopefully we're going to bring some sunshine to everyone today. Um,
Sounds good.
we talked about the idea of resilience and job search as the topic, and we're going to have a very open discussion because Terry and I come from very similar places with the people that we work with at our outplacement agencies, and I think the one question I get all the time, and we were talking about this a minute ago, is when you're looking at different resumes and LinkedIn profiles and you're giving feedback, um, it's a balancing act because you want to be supportive and you want to be helpful, but at the same time, you want to tell them in a nice way, this is how you make it better. And I think it's a little bit of a struggle for me. Do you find a similar struggle with that when you have to give feedback?
I, I give feedback all the time, every day of the week, and and as someone who personally is not all that comfortable with feedback, right?
Right,
Back in my corporate career, I
right.
had some awful performance appraisals. I mean, I could curl your hair. I
Oof.
mean, look at the two of us.
Yeah, really.
We don't have that much to curl, but I could curl your hair with performance appraisal horror stories. So I'm not a big fan of that word or even that concept. What I try to do with my clients is I try to advise them, and that's the term I've been
Right.
using the last couple of years, is that I am their advisor, and in that advisory role, I have recommendations for them to consider. So that's the language I use.
Okay.
And feel free to use it or adapt it. It's not anything I own, but that seems to go over well with people. I will put together like a detailed resume, uh, let's say feedback email to a client, really breaking it down, all the things that I noticed that I would recommend that we work on. And I'll phrase it as, here are my recommendations for your consideration. I, I haven't had anybody react negatively to that yet. That seems to work pretty well.
We actually had a whole session, all of us as branding experts, and we came up with a whole new template of things that we can suggest and ways we can suggest it because we realized that a lot of our comments were a little bit too critical for our, I mean, and so we had a balancing act. And I think that's part of, in some ways, we work with a lot of people. And I had a conversation today with someone who had been working for, it was 23 years she worked at Bristol Myers
Mhm.
and just lost her job.
Oh, wow.
Well, and we spent an hour just chatting about things, and it's there's a lot of aha moments to come about. But what I find very helpful to me is understanding the mindset as much as anything else. And I'd be curious to know if anyone on the call um, feels comfortable asking any specific questions or have any specific comments, because one of the things that we talked about, and even the idea of resiliency, is you go through that first time when you've lost your job, you go through that time, but then you got to bounce back up, and it's hard. And this person said, I'm stuck right now. I'm stuck. I don't know what to do first. I don't know how to do it.
Yeah,
And that's a big thing. It's like,
it
and I said
is.
the first step is you're actually having a conversation and you're acknowledging it.
Yeah, that is very common. These are people who are, in most cases, highly experienced professionals who know what they're doing in their field, and now here they are. They've lost their job due to no fault of their own in most cases, and they have no idea what to do. They have been reduced to incompetence, and I think that's why we're there, Ken. That's part of our role is to build them back up, and building them back up to that level of confidence is job one quite often.
I find for me, the best thing, and I try to do this a lot with my sessions, and I don't know if you do, I try to be a facilitator more than anything else and let the conversation go where it goes. It's
Yeah,
not, I mean, I will, show people how to do stuff on LinkedIn, but I want people to share because while we can't go into specifics, there's so much commonality with what people are going through.
yeah. It's true. It's true. I like that term facilitator. That's actually one of my favorite words.
Right.
As we talk about words we like and don't like, I really love that word. Many years ago, I actually created a training program for managers on how to develop their facilitation skills. And so I
Mhm.
had to research the word facilitate. And in researching it, where does it come from? The Latin roots and all of that. I discovered that it means to help smooth the way, for someone or a team. And so when we as coaches or advisors or however we want to describe ourselves, as we are helping to smooth the way for people currently looking for the next job, they're really going to feel, I think, well cared for by us. And to a great degree, that is our job, is to provide some kind of a caring, supportive structure for them so that they can lean on us to the degree they need to or want to, and they cannot lean on us and just go ahead and run down that road toward their goal.
Absolutely. I just want to call out some of our New Jersey folks that we know. We know Carol McCullough, of course.
Carol,
And Carol, I believe the Careers in Transition group is coming up again soon. Look forward to what goes on with that. Christine Dykman, my favorite guest. Terry
Christine,
Seamon, hosted by my favorite speaker. Oh,
a nice rainy day treat. I saw that. That's good.
and Merrill Cass. Yeah, Merrill and I, and actually, I actually asked Merrill, and he hasn't gotten back to me, which is very un-Merrill like. I said, Merrill, you'd be a great guest.
He
Why don't
would
you,
be.
why don't you join me here and we can chat because you're always in the background. I think
Merrill is a connector.
I know he absolutely is.
Yeah, he's a connector. He connects with you, and he connects you to people that he knows or events that he's aware of. I always love getting emails from Merrill.
I think for me, the first step as a facilitator is to let people know they're in a safe place. I
Agreed.
can't tell you how many times I'll have these sessions and the people don't show their face. It's like, is it okay if I'm like, sure. And then little by little, they're like, well, maybe it's okay. I said, it's absolutely okay to do what you want. It's a safe place. And it happens little by little.
Yeah.
And I just want to be that person that listens. And we talk about that a lot. I am listening
Hmm.
to what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Creating that psychological safety is very important, and it's not necessarily a science. It's more of a something you kind of feel your way with.
Right,
You listen, as you said. Listening is
right,
critically important, and you also have to be authentically you, right? You have to show up as who you are, your best self,
right.
as best as you can present yourself, and let the person know, hey, you know what, I'm here for you. And in recent years, I've been doing this a number of years. In recent years, I've actually been get vocalizing that very phrase. I didn't in the past, but I'm doing that more and more. Ken, I'm here for you. Alice, I'm here for you. And really trying, and I mean that sincerely, and I try to deliver it in a way that they feel, wow, okay, I can count on him. I can call him, text him, email him, whatever, and he'll get back to me. And that's a big part of the pledge that I make to my clients. If you reach out to me, I'm getting back to you as quickly as I possibly can.
I find it so important to be that way because we are sort of I don't want to put too much on. We are the first step to getting them back. And the resiliency part, sometimes
Mhm.
they don't know what they need to do, and
Right.
sometimes they help each other out.
Yes,
I find one of the challenges that I have, and Joey absolutely is correct. Looking for work is selling yourself.
that's right.
What I find more than anything else is that they're so caught in their mindset, and even people of our age, we were taught not to really ask certain questions, or is it okay to speak up? Absolutely, it's okay.
Mhm,
you know the this and I work with two different generations, and it's different struggles with each.
mhm.
But I've gotten a little tired of people talking about I'm too old.
Ah,
I've gotten to the place where I understand it, but it's a crutch. Do you feel that way, or
Well, I've had in the last several years, in particular, I've had a number of older, or as we like to
right?
say, experience rich
Yes,
candidates. I love that phrase, experience rich. I wonder who came up with that.
I think
Uh,
Brenda Miller did actually. Yes.
my hats off to her. Uh, my in working with those folks, it's not uncommon for that person and me to share our age with each other.
Absolutely.
And I'll say, I'm closing in on 70. I can see it. It's right out there. I'm not too far off. And they'll say, "Oh, really? Well, I'm 55 or I'm 56 or whatever." But there's definitely a real concern quite often that they have about their age. Are they and they wonder, and they'll speak about this. Am I at a point in my career where I'm done? Am I at the end of my road? They will say, I don't feel that way. I
Uh-huh.
feel like I have gas in the tank. Quite often is the expression that they'll use. And there's more I want to do. So that's what I try to explore with them. What is that more that you want to do? What let's envision that. Let's figure out what that is, and let's see if we can design a pathway in that direction.
I actually did a test, which I'm going to be posting about in the next week or so. I applied for 3 jobs that I knew I was totally qualified for.
Okay.
Did everything the right way.
Uh-huh.
Got rejected 3 times by an automated by an online thing. And I actually reached out after that to recruiting contacts that I had, and I never heard back about that.
Interesting
So I
test.
did, but I did that because I wanted to see for myself what was going on.
Hmm.
The idea of ghosting, and I did everything the way a job seeker would, and I tried. I didn't apply with LinkedIn directly. I sent my resume. Um, I even reached out to a couple people. So it's not great out there, but I can tell you from firsthand experience, it's not great out there. So, and I do that a lot when I do these sessions. I want to try for myself what's going on, and I want to be able to walk the walk and talk the talk. And I'm debating whether I want to call out the specific companies yet or not. I'll see about that, but it was still an interesting test.
It is an interesting test. I'd like to hear more about that maybe next time we chat.
Well,
But yeah,
my gut feeling is, and I'm pretty sure I know the reason why, is that again, the job spec said one thing, they were looking for one thing, even though I had it either had too much of it or not exactly what they wanted. But this is why I tell people to network, find
yes,
people,
exactly.
work around that because I think it's so important. Even with these calls and things, you know, people are so afraid to connect
Yeah,
with people.
yeah. That really is the key. And the clients of mine that are comfortable with networking,
Yeah.
they take off. They just take off. They still have challenges. They have challenges. They get rejected, but they take off, and they actually have I call it an engine of success. It
Hmm.
keeps on delivering. The other clients who are reluctant to network, afraid to network, they've got a mental block about networking. Uh, they are going to have a much harder road to hoe. It's going to take them longer. They're going to be, sending their resume over and over again into the black box, and not getting much out of it. And
Right.
I do my best to try to cajole and persuade and advise them in this other direction toward networking, but it's a tough sell quite often.
I, I think I think I always suggest, and I think I make this an open thing, as career advisors, job search advocates, whomever, the more you can think like a job seeker, the better. I mean, one of the reasons I did that was just to show people not, I mean, the frustration and understand it. If someone does reach out to me, that's great. And I will let them, I actually, 2 years ago, I think I actually did this experiment. I got a contacted by the company, and I told them right off the bat. I said that I was doing this as a test, and I wasn't going to go through all the steps of interviewing and things. and maybe they weren't so happy about it, but still, it was interesting to try it. And
Mhm.
um, again, it's like it's just amazing to me. The system we all agree is kind of broken in that way, but there are ways to fix it. So, um, Francis Rowe, I enjoy networking. I've done this often and often had interviews from that, but still have not landed a job, which is a whole different discussion entirely that we have talked about all amongst ourselves. It's you never know why you're not getting a job. You never know exactly what's going on behind the scenes, and it's
Yeah, there are
good.
a lot of unknowns, and there's a lot of uncontrollables, right, in the process. But Francis and anybody else who agrees with that statement that she posted, don't give up. Don't give up on the networking. Networking is the way to go. That is our experience is we have a very strong conviction about this. Networking is the way to go. Someone the other day used a great expression in a conversation I was having with them. I said, "So how's your networking going?" And he said, "I have put my APB out there." APB. My dad was a cop, so I know about APB, All Points Bulletin. Get that All Points Bulletin out to the people you know, friends, family, past bosses, past coworkers, past suppliers, vendors, customers. Put that APB out there and renew it. After a couple of months, put it out there again. Let your network know progress that you've made. Maybe create a little newsletter for yourself. Back in one of my earlier career transition times, back in my corporate days, I did that. I periodically published a newsletter to my network, letting them know the progress I was making and giving them kind of the opportunity, if they wanted to do so, to give me some more input or some more advice. And boy, did they. And I benefited by it. I really benefited by the advice and counsel of people in my network.
Sorry about that. Veronica, just to let you know, I've been working with a couple of people of that are old enough to be my kids, and one of them is a friend of someone I went to school with. True story. And we've been in touch the last 6 months. And he was stuck. He had an MBA, graduated with an MBA, and he could not find a job. And we had a couple of conversations, and what I found out in time was that he was doing everything the right way, but he was not getting interviews. And what he realized he wasn't doing enough of was um, actually putting himself out there and reaching out to people, kind of like the old way that we used to do it, like actually picking up the phone at times, making the calls, or texting as we will now, because I think we're so inclined to hide behind doing stuff online, and that's not work for everyone. But what I did suggest to him, to him, there's a lot of networking groups for people of that age out there. I think in New Jersey we have the Young Professionals Network, so I think sometimes it's a case of networking with the right people, for sure.
Good point.
Um, so again, I'm just going to look over here. This is true. There's so much contradictory information out there, and my answer to this is you have to try to rely on people that you know and trust with this, because not all information out there is going to be relevant to everyone. What I might suggest to one person will, even at LHH, different people have different needs. And, if you start going online and looking for suggestions, you're going to drive yourself crazy. It's like, um, there's no one right answer to stuff. And sometimes you have to really have to trust your gut. And as Charlie says, too many people tell themselves the message that's easiest to hear because it feels good.
Charles, you are so wise. I tell you, always, everything that you ever say or write just impresses me. There is a new coach out there, folks. Ken and I are both getting to know this new coach. It's
Yes.
called Chat GPT.
Yes.
And be careful with Chat GPT because it doesn't know everything. It's learning. It sometimes hallucinates, but it's a good place to go to just put your question in there. Veronique, take what you wrote before in your chat comment, turn it into a question, and ask ChatGPT and see what it says to you. Don't buy it hook, line, and sinker,
Right.
but take a look at it and see what it has to say. Uh, I attended a webinar yesterday about ChatGPT and how it can help in the
Uh-huh.
job search, and the presenter said, treat it as your personal assistant.
Sure.
I love that. Treat it as your personal assistant. You can take or leave what it says, but take a few moments to ask your new coach, Chat GPT, and see what it says.
I'm going to tackle this one here with you, Terry. When you say get the news out there, do you recommend we do a post or do it, or should it be more of a messaging approach? And the one piece of advice, first of all, there's different ways to define news. I mean, if you have open to work on there, you're letting everyone know you're open to work. If you do a post on LinkedIn and engage with people, and you mention that you're open to work, but what your value is, that's a way to get the word out. If you connect with someone on LinkedIn and you let them know you're interested in them and you personalize it, that's another way to do it. But I think the one piece of advice to get over the fear of networking is just to start. Just to start. Do something. You're attending here today. Have a conversation with someone. Networking is only having conversations. We have conversations all the time. We meet people for coffee, we go out to lunch, we go out to dinner. So I think the first thing is to forget the word. Most of the people I've met on these calls and other places, I didn't know before we had conversations. What do you think, Terry?
I support everything you just said, Ken. And what I would add to that is start with people you know. Right? Don't go for the master class initially of, oh, I have to network with Tom Peters or some like big thought leader. Although I salute you if that is your goal. Work your way toward Tom Peters. Start with people that you know. Uh, who have you worked with in the past? Colleagues, past bosses, uh, vendors, customers. Who do you know that if you were to pick up the phone and call them, they would say, hey, Charlie, is that you? I haven't talked to you in a long time. How have things been? And the two of you will reconnect. So the reconnecting, reestablishing the relationship comes first, followed by what it is that you currently need some help with. And don't forget, at the end of every networking call, thank the person for their time and ask them, is there anything I can do to help you?
And I would go even further, and this is a true story. If you're going to go to a networking event, go with someone else.
I like that.
The first, I went to a networking event and I brought a wing person, and you will never guess who that wing person was. And it was Abby Kohut.
Oh, good choice.
Abby Kohut is as introverted as I am, going to be, which you would never know. But we both made, and this was years and years ago. So we both agreed we were going to go, and the two of us were chatting as two introverts would chat, and people started coming up to us. So I would always say, go with a friend of yours, go with someone there, because the perception is if you have a conversation with one other person, it'll be easier to start having another person engage.
Hmm. That's a great idea. And in particular, Ken, you're now referring to group events.
Yes,
And I'm a big proponent of group events. Ken is maybe even more of a proponent of them than I am, because I'm a little bit more cautious due to still coming
right.
out of the COVID era. But group events are back, and group events can be great. And one of the ways to make you yourself feel more comfortable is go with a buddy, go with a friend. Absolutely. That could be very helpful. One of the advantages of that go with a friend is after the event is over and the two of you get back on the train and come back to New
Right.
Jersey or whatever the scenario might be, the two of you can compare notes.
Sure.
You know, you can say to your friend, can you believe that so and so did such and such? And it can be a great way to debrief and really pull out the takeaways from the event.
Absolutely. And you feel that much better because even if it doesn't work out, you have someone else to chat with.
Yep.
I've taken in the past, I took my best friend once who happened to be an IT person, but we were just going, we chat about anything and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So here's some great comments here, Charles. Assume the other person might be more terrified than you. Big thing to think about. You
Yeah.
have no idea how afraid they are to reach out to you. They're going to
Yeah.
be maybe intimidated by seeing two people chatting.
Hmm.
Um, and Alan, start with people you know, which again, if you find an event, see ahead of time if you can find people that you know are going to the event or suggest that they go
Right.
with you. Um, and I think an event can be anything. It doesn't
Yep.
have to be a chamber of commerce thing. It can be a discussion. There's all different things out there. And I love George, phone a friend.
Very good.
But nowadays, there's there's nothing to be afraid of with whatever you do. Really, there's nothing. I mean, what's the worst thing that's going to happen?
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
I mean, I hated doing elevator pitches in person. Oh my God, I'd freak out. What am I going to say? What am I going to say? I still don't like doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, so what?
Right. Right. But it's a good exercise to go through. And anybody currently listening to this chat that we're having, wondering about things like elevator pitches, we know the master of elevator pitches, our good friend Marty Latman.
Yeah,
Look for his next talk.
right.
Earlier, someone was talking about taking a lot of interviews but not getting the offer. So if that individual is looking at polishing and improving their interview skills, we know the master. It's Alex Freund.
Right.
So look for the next time that Alex is talking, and plug in and tune in, and you'll get so much. One of the great things about the network that Ken and I are in is we are surrounded by a cloud of experts in all different aspects of job search and career transition. It's just incredible. Ken mentioned Abby Kohut before. She's part of that cloud of I call them job angels. And I borrowed that term, job angels, from Mark Stelzner, who some of you may know from LinkedIn. But yeah, it's this cloud of people who are supporters, advisors. They're there to help. They're willing to help. Um, we're throwing names out. Hopefully, you all are keeping track, and you'll start following these people on LinkedIn. Here's another one, Ed Hahn. If
Yes.
you're not following Ed Hahn yet, folks, you need to follow Ed Hahn. He publishes, does he call it Ed Talks, Ken?
Good talks. Yes.
He
Yes.
publishes Ed Talks, where he'll write out a little message about something, very, very helpful and important. And he'll say at the end, thank you for coming to my Ed Talk.
Yes. And I love this here. If you're given a name tag, put your name on and say, I'm so and so, and I am an introvert.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we actually, I mean, and just to play off of that, um, we just got together a bunch of us from our high school class for a get together. And the first networking event I think I actually put together was a get together of our high school class. We all just got together. This was many years ago, and we all looked at each other, and it was so much fun because we were talking about high school days and stuff, and our spouses could care less. But the point is, we developed relationships over time, and we all
Yeah.
stayed in touch. And we actually had name tags. And we did this for one of our reunions. We did a name tag, and we had our name tag. We also had a picture from our high school yearbook on because no one knew who anyone was.
Right.
So that's the thing. Like if you want to say I'm an introvert, or you do something like that, something to get everyone's attention. Not that it's easy for us to do, but when you're given a name tag, it's not just your name and your company and your name and what you're looking for. Just because they tell you to do something doesn't mean you have to do it that way.
I was talking to a client recently who was going to a conference, and we were just brainstorming, ways to get the most out
Right.
of the event. And it occurred to me, and I said, hey, why don't you try this? On your name tag where it says, hello, my name is, go ahead, put your name in there. And then write in underneath it, ask me about what you want to talk with people about. In this case, it was ask me about sustainability. So that was her name tag. Hello, my name is, Jane Smith. Ask me about sustainability. And that was how she was going to go into this conference.
I think what I'm going to do in the future, because I get this question a lot. I'm going to say Kenneth Lang, 6'5". I don't play basketball because that's then the first question I get is how tall am I? Now,
Right.
to be fair, that actually came from my son's girlfriend who gave business cards to my son because he got the question all the time. And it had to be updated every year when he got taller. But again, it's just like going with the flow.
There you go. Be creative. Have fun with it.
Absolutely.
If you're going to a trade show, a convention, or some event in your field, and you want to have a good time as well as learn and meet people, get creative with your "Hello, my name is" tag.
And Veronica brings up this good point. As we're getting into the holidays now, these are all networking events, whether it's Thanksgiving, whether it's
Totally agree.
Halloween or Christmas or whatever. Because what you don't realize until you have conversations what people are going through. You don't know, um, and there's nothing wrong with asking for help and advice and support in a situation like that because that's what we all do
Yeah.
or should do.
That's right. That's right. Yes. I always like to say at this time of year, enjoy the holidays and don't forget to keep on networking.
Absolutely.
And as Ken said, what networking is having conversations with people.
And it's also getting past the mindset that, well, with the holidays, no one's hiring, or in the summer, no one's hiring. And, you know, people are hiring all year. You
That's
network
right.
all year. You may do it differently.
That's right.
And that's a big part of it. And I think the challenge is where do you get started? I think what I keep telling people is your resume and LinkedIn are probably just as important differently, but your LinkedIn is not your resume. I
Right.
can't tell you how many times I've seen a LinkedIn profile. It's like a resume, and that's the grr that I get
Right.
sometimes. It's just
Right.
what you have happen.
Yeah. I find that most, I'm going to go with most here. That's a strong term for me. Most of my clients have no idea how to get the mileage out of LinkedIn that LinkedIn has available. And I love to, I mean, I'm no expert on LinkedIn. I follow you, Ken, and other experts like Kevin Turner and Jeff Young, just to throw out a few more names. I follow the experts so that I can, share some of that with my clients. And I love sharing some of that with clients, and they'll say to me, "Really?
Yep.
My headline should have keywords in it. I,
Well,
I should use the about box. What do I put in the about box?"
my big thing now is using LinkedIn as a search engine. I
Agreed.
mean, I've said to people, this is like on a Google for business or Google for job search.
Yeah.
And it's little things like and this is the thing I say, if you type I'm hiring at the top and you
Hmm.
select
Yep.
people that have I'm hiring will show up and you can go even to a further granular search.
That's right.
And that becomes an aha moment. Or I'll say, look at the job title. What job title do you want? Let's look at jobs related to that.
Hmm.
Do the specs match?
Yep.
I didn't know that I could include that. And it's not, and it's that's aha moments and things. And
That's
it's
right.
not. I made a lot of mistakes on LinkedIn over the years. I've learned the hard way. Um, and right now, a bunch of us are really we have a bunch of us are actually changing up our platforms now because of the latest from LinkedIn, which um, almost don't want to say too much because a bunch of us will get in trouble. But
That's yeah. That's another conversation.
but I will just say this: there's a bunch of people that have been put in LinkedIn jail for absolutely no reason. We think.
Oh, yeah.
So we
Crazy.
will, yeah. So, but I'm definitely going to give Christine a call out. I gave a little bit of what I'm going to be talking about next week.
Yeah.
Um, what people have to understand in general is that LinkedIn is, if you don't have a website for whatever reason, LinkedIn is the closest thing to a website that you can do because there's so much stuff you can include there.
That's true. In fact, I often will say that to people who will ask me, "So, Terry, do you have a website?" No, but I have a LinkedIn profile where you can learn a lot about who I am, what I do, what I'm up to currently, because I publish a lot of content on LinkedIn. So just dive into my content, and you'll know pretty quickly quite a bit about me, maybe more than you want to know.
One thing I did find out because the question actually came up in our group at Leac Harrison, which I hadn't thought about. We tell people to personalize the URLs all the time.
Hmm.
So what happens if you have a URL, LinkedIn URL, and a resume that's been sent out 3 or 4 months ago? Is that gone?
Interesting.
And the answer to the question is LinkedIn actually has a thing that URL stays out there for 6 months. It's not, I mean, if someone clicks on it and eventually it goes away, but what there should be is a redirect. But we put that out there, and because it's a good thing, like we tell people to do stuff, but what's the ramification of it? So if I have a resume that's 2 years old that's out there with that LinkedIn URL, if I hadn't had it personalized, it would be lost. But at least we have an answer to the question that comes up. So yes, personalizing it, and it won't go away, but at some point it will.
Well, I'm learning a lot about LinkedIn right this second, and every day following the people that I follow and trying to keep up with it. And I think one of our topics for today is resilience, right? And
Right.
for me, a big part of resilience is adaptability. It's
Absolutely.
adaptability is often learning or relearning, because there's something we had to unlearn. We had to unlearn some things we used to do in the past. Now we have to relearn or upskill. And so that adaptability is a big part of resilience. And I think that job seekers who embrace the challenge of adaptability and are open to learning and identify their learning targets, whether it's LinkedIn, how to write a resume, how to interview better, whatever it might be, those individuals are setting themselves up for success, in my view, because that adaptability, that willingness to learn, those are key ingredients in the resilience formula.
And it's okay to make mistakes with anything
Exactly.
you do. As Alan says, LinkedIn is not a spectator sport. Um, I,
Agreed.
I mean, people are so afraid of it. Think about when you're sending an email to someone or something like that. You want to make sure it reads properly. You want to make sure that there's no typos. You want to make sure it's going to the right person.
Right.
So some of that mindset goes on a LinkedIn profile. Well, if I make a change, what's going to happen? What if it's a typo? What if it's this? All right,
Hey,
fix it. I
yeah.
mean,
Yeah, my mother always said, "Live and learn," and I interpret that to mean, yeah, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to crash and burn, but you need to pick yourself up, you need to learn the lessons, and you need to move on toward whatever your goal happens to be.
and I think the biggest challenge that most people have, and we go back to the introvert thing. I recommend all introverts find an extrovert. You got to find an extrovert just to see what it's like on the other side, because extroverts don't know that they're extroverts when they're talking to an introvert. They don't know. I mean, until you and there's different levels of both of these.
Yep.
But I always talk about Lauren Greif that way. Lauren Greif is as extroverted as they come.
Oh
The
yeah.
first conversation we had, and I don't know if she's on the call, but if she is, she is. We were on the call and she was moving around, doing things in the house, talking at the same time. And I'm like, I'm getting dizzy. But that's what she does. She's a mile a minute.
Yep. I'm married to one. We've been married 40 years, and I
Yeah.
know exactly what you mean. She is amazing,
Yep.
and incredibly energetic. And you're right about communication styles. Our communication styles are completely different. She is in your face, and I mean that in a very literal way, right in your face. Whereas I need more, a little bit more space, a little bit more distance.
Well, after all of these, I have what's called downtime. I
Yeah,
decompress
yeah,
because I
me
have
too.
to. But it's acknowledging who you are and being resilient. I mean, for the longest
Yeah.
time, when I was out of work in 2008, it took me a long time to realize that I couldn't do what I was doing before. I kept trying. I can do this. I can do that. And then I realized one day you can't. So why try?
Right. Know your limits.
Know your limits. And after that, it became easier. But I had to be hit on the head
Hmm.
basically by a recruiter saying you can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Now that
Yeah.
recruiter became a good friend of mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was someone had, I mean, and that's a part of resiliency. Waking up one day realizing maybe I can't do this before. Maybe it's not the skills. Maybe it's something else. And maybe it's the way I'm coming across. Maybe it's just the interviewing. I could be, you just don't know. And sometimes sometimes the best advice that I give, even with interviewing things, is do it with a family member or a friend. Let them look at your resume. Let them see if they understand.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes that friendly audience, whether it's your spouse or your kids, uh, can be a very nice way to get feedback, where there's a soft landing versus somebody else who's maybe a little bit more critical and less caring about the landing that you've experienced. So yeah, getting that soft landing with feedback can be a nice way to receive it. But yeah, I totally agree. Another part of resilience really is increasing your self awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's learning your own limits, uh, you know, figuring out what does downtime look like to you, how much do you need, and then beyond self awareness, then there's setting boundaries, right? Setting boundaries so that if you do need that downtime and that quiet time, which a lot of us introverts need, we need that time alone so
Right.
we can restore
Sure.
our battery levels. We have to find that time for that. Find that quiet time. There's so much involved in resilience. I'm fascinated by the subject. I've been studying it for years. I'm not a psychologist at all. I'm just a simple career coach. But I'm fascinated by it from a personal standpoint, because I've
Mm-hmm.
personally been there in job search numerous times where I had to pick myself up, put myself back together, and get moving toward my goals. And now in the work that I do with my clients, it comes up all the time. Sometimes sort of indirectly, sometimes front and center. I've got one client right now I'm working with who he himself is a martial arts practitioner in addition to what he does professionally. And he has shared with me lessons he has learned about resilience from his study of martial arts. So I'm learning from him, and I'm always looking to learn new approaches, new analogies, new images of resilience that I can share with others.
So before we end the call, Terry, are you going to be at PMI New Jersey on October 20th?
Yes, I am. I'm one of the guest coaches,
Yeah,
or guest speakers, I should say.
yeah, and I'm going to be on the coaching panel, so I look forward to that. So I want
Fantastic.
to thank everyone for attending today. Terry, it's always great to chat.
Thanks, Ken. It's great
Um,
here as well.
hope everyone has a great day. Stay safe, and we'll chat again next week. And I believe we actually were on LinkedIn Live in real time for everyone today. So thanks a lot, everyone. Have a great day.
Wonderful. Bye bye.
Bye.